record. There we go. Welcome, Girl Scouts. Thank you so much for joining our Meet an Expert session today. My name is Amy Artzer, and I'm our Community Partnerships Manager, which means that I get to work with amazing folks like our expert who's going to be joining us today. Before we kick things off, I will go over just a few housekeeping items. So we will be keeping everyone on mute for the duration of our session today. We do have the chat box available. Right now, the chat box is closed except messages coming directly to me. So if you do have questions, concerns, technical difficulties, please feel free to use the chat box. We will open things up for questions later, but we're going to have you enter your questions into the chat box, and then I will read them out loud for our expert. Additionally, you can turn your video on if you want to. It's totally optional, whichever you're more comfortable with. We are recording today's session and we'll post it to our Meet an Expert playlist on the Girl Scouts of Colorado YouTube channel. But our recording is just of myself and our expert and our slides today. So we won't be recording any Girl Scouts names or faces. All of that being said, before I turn things over to Miss Jennifer Kirkland, we are going to go through the Girl Scout Promise and Law together. So please follow along with me at home. On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, and responsible for what I say and do, and to respect myself and others, respect authority, use resources wisely, make the world a better place, and be a sister to every Girl Scout. Well done, Girl Scouts. Now it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Jennifer Kirkland, who is a 911 Center Manager in Grand Junction, Colorado. She has several other titles here, but I'll let her tell you all a little bit about herself, and then you'll get to ask her all your questions about herself and her career. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks everybody for having me here. I'm really excited to speak with you today. I've been looking forward to it for a long time, so thank you for having me here. Sorry, can you still hear me, Amy? I lost the screen.
Oh, we can still hear you.
Okay, great. Well, I will keep going as long as you can hear me. So my name is Jennifer Kirkland, and I am the 911 Center Manager here at Grand Junction Regional Communications Center in Grand Junction, Colorado. And I know that we have girls from all over the country here, which is fantastic. And you have a 911 center somewhere near you that answers your 911 call. It's probably not my center, but it will be a center similar to ours, so that you know exactly what's going on and how you can connect with your 911 center. So everybody knows that when you need help, a policeman or a policewoman or a firefighter or an ambulance, that you call 911. And our center answers 911 calls for all of Mesa County in Colorado. And we dispatch for 25 police, fire, and EMS agencies. So we have different jobs in the center. Some people do the call taking, so they answer the 911 calls. We also answer non-emergency calls for people who need things like police reports, or if they're calling because they need a police officer, but it's not an emergency, we answer those phone calls. We dispatch for law enforcement. So we tell the officers where the calls are and where they need to go and help them out with their calls. Or we also dispatch the fire and EMS. So if there's a fire, then the fire trucks need to go, or if there's a medical emergency, then we send the ambulance and the fire truck. And we do all of that through radios and phones, and we use a lot of computers. So I thought that what we would do is maybe go on a little tour of the 911 center so you can see what it looks like in our center. Again, every 911 center is going to look a little different and be a little different depending on what the needs are of your area or town. Some towns have their own 911 center, or some towns contract with a county like we are. And there's just all kinds of different ways to do it, but 911 at the bottom of it is making sure that we're there to help people. So if it's all right with you, Amy, I think I'd like to go ahead and switch cameras, and then we will go on a little tour.
Yeah, take us away.
Okay. Could you put us back to the way that we were at the beginning so I can switch my video to the back? For some reason, I can't see the full screen the way that we are set.
All right, hold on a second and we'll see. Is that better? Let's see, maybe we'll try. Is that better?
No, for some reason. So one of the things that I think is hilarious is that every time you practice something, that it will go fine in practice. And then when you need it, it will mess up. So just so you guys know, I think I'm going to stop video and see if that helps.
Okay.
Nope.
Maybe I'll try. Everybody, thank you for your patience.
Yep.
1 second, and I think I'll try. Okay, let's try that.
What is going on with my Zoom here? Amy, if it's all right with you, I think what I'll do is get out of the meeting and then come right back in and see if that. I am so sorry, girls. I thank you for your patience, and we'll get back in and we'll get on that tour.
Sounds good. All right, while we work out our few technical difficulties, in the chat box, please let me know, what is your favorite Girl Scout cookie? Oh, I love the first answer that came in. Somebody said all of them. Agreed. I haven't met a Girl Scout cookie that I would say no to. Thin mints, tag-alongs, s'mores, lemonades. Oh, I love a lemonade. We don't have lemonades here in Colorado. S'mores, Samoas, all of them. Okay, here's another great question. Have any of you made any recipes with Girl Scout cookies? Like, have you made a pie crust with Girl Scout cookies? Or I know that some people have made coconut shrimp with Samoas. I see some no's, some yeses. Oh, Isabella said she made lemon bars once. A lot of no's. Okay, Jennifer's back, so just bear with us for one moment. Jennifer, I'm going to make you a co-host again so that you can unmute yourself. Ooh, Belinda said she made a parfait with trefoils.
Okay, are you ready?
We are ready.
Okay, so we're starting this tour in my office, so can you hear me okay?
Yes, hold on 1 second though, and let me put you on spotlight so that we can see. There we go.
Okay, so that's my bookshelf and my desk, which I tried to clean up for you, although it's usually messy. This is a coin collection. So when you are in law enforcement or public safety, people like to give coins like this. And so that's my flag that I have for the coins. There we go. But I'm going to walk you out to the comm center here. And we'll have to go through our kitchen. So this is where our 911 professionals can eat their lunch or their dinner or take their breaks. And we have a little balcony so that they can go outside if they want to, because they work 10-hour shifts and sometimes 12-hour shifts. And so it can be a long time. So they'd like to have a place to take a break. So this is the comm center. As you can see, there's a lot of desks. And we'll go over here to one desk so you can see that they have 7 screens that they work with. And we'll go to one that someone's sitting at so that you can see what each of the screens does. But when they come into work, they sit down at their desk, and sometimes they call take for the day, or sometimes they're dispatching for the day. And they're all trained to the same level so that they can just decide what they're doing that day, and then they work as a team. So you can see we have Julie on the phone, and we have Mary over there on the phone. And then in here we've got Madeline, who's dispatching for law enforcement. Madeline, this is the Girl Scouts.
Hi.
I'm just going to show your screens.
Okay.
I'm going to try to be quiet so I don't disrupt her. But this is the phone screen. This is how our dispatchers answer the phone. And they do it with a handset, just like a phone. Well, an old style phone, I guess. But for the radio, they use a headset. And I'm just going to kind of zoom in on Madeline's ear so you can see that she's got a headset on. And so when she wants to talk on the radio, she uses the mouse to click on a radio computer. The radio computer looks like this. So each one of those boxes is a radio channel, and she can choose which channel to talk on. And then over here, this is the different desk, but the same computers. This is our computer-aided dispatch, or CAD. And this is where they take the call and they're talking to the person who's on the phone, and they enter the information into the CAD screen here. And when they do that, all the partners can see what the call is, what their person is requesting. And then the person who's dispatching can dispatch the police or the fire or the EMS while the other person is still on the phone. So the CAD system uses 1, 2, 3, 4 computer screens. And then over here, they have a different computer that they use for other things as well. So overall, the process works. Someone will answer the phone, they'll put the call into the CAD system, and then their partner will dispatch it out to the units while the first person is still gathering information. So a lot of times people think that when you call 911 and we ask a lot of questions, that help is not on the way yet because you're answering questions. And actually, someone else is usually dispatching out the help that you need while you're still giving information to the call taker. That's Jeff. He's walking by on a little break there.
Engine 6 is out of service and truck 6 is in service.
So that's another side of the room. That's Emily. She's doing call take. And then we have more call take over here. So right now we have 4 people dispatching. We have one person dispatching for some law enforcement agencies. We have another person dispatching for the other law enforcement agencies. We have a third person dispatching for the fire and EMS crews. And then we have a 4th person who's helping out the law enforcement agencies with running people through a database that checks for warrants, and it checks for their driver's license statuses and anything else that the officers need to know about the people they're coming in contact with. So we'll go back to my office. That's Sarah.
Hi.
She's our training supervisor.
Hello.
This is the Girl Scouts.
Hi.
Yeah. Whoops,
Well.
get your face in there.
Oh.
So that's what the comm center looks like. And like I said, depending on where you live, your comm center might be big or like ours, or it might be smaller. The center where I worked before was smaller. It only had 8 desks. We have 16 desks plus a training area that has a few more that you didn't get to see. So let me plug in my computer. And then what I thought you might like to hear also is a actual 911 call. So when you if you need to call 911 because you have a medical problem, we have a set of questions that we ask that is standardized for every medical call. We can give CPR instructions over the phone. We can help people deliver babies over the phone. We can give Heimlich maneuver instructions if someone's choking. But all of that starts with making sure we have enough information to understand what's going on so that we can get the right help out to you. I bet you guys can guess what the first question and the most important question is on any 911 call. What do you guys think?
And you can use the chat box to answer the question.
I see a lot of hands. That's great. What do you think is the most important information?
So a bunch of answers came in, but they just came in to me. Where are you?
Yep. Where are you? That's exactly right. We need to know where you are so we can send the right help. So the first question is going to be, where are you, or where is your emergency? And so I'm going to go ahead and play this 911 call, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the job and how I got here and what the job is like. And then I'll take some of your questions because I bet you guys have a ton of great questions. So let me pull up the call. Can you guys hear that okay?
Yeah, we can hear.
I'll meet her down there. I can't ride with her.
911, this is Mary. Where's your emergency?
We're trying to get an ambulance taken to the emergency room.
Okay. What are her symptoms today, sir?
She can't breathe, and she's got heart issues, and she just can't. She's got water in her lungs, and they've been fighting, and they just can't. She just came home Friday or Saturday, and she's, having a bad turn somehow right now.
Okay, so right now her symptom is that she's having difficulty breathing?
Yes.
Okay. Are you with her now, sir?
I am.
Okay. Is she awake?
She is.
Okay. And is she breathing?
She is. Wait.
Okay. Is she completely alert?
Yeah, she's alert.
Okay. Does she have difficulty speaking? Right. Does she have difficulty speaking between breaths?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm just asking these scripted questions for the paramedics, okay? It's not delaying a response. My partner's got help coming. Is she changing color?
Yeah, she doesn't have very good color. She's pretty pale.
Pale? Okay. And is she clammy or having cold sweats?
Are you clammy or having cold sweats, Mom? No.
All right.
No, she's not, but she's nauseated.
Okay. Does she have asthma or other lung problems?
No.
Okay.
No.
And
she, like I say, was recently let out of the hospital. They had her on oxygen. She's been, she's been retaining water, that they've been fighting, all kinds of stuff.
okay. Now tell me if she has any of the following symptoms. Measure body temperature greater than 100.4.
No, she doesn't have any temperature.
Okay. Chills?
Chills, Mom? No.
Persistent cough?
Persistent cough. She does have yeah.
Yes.
She's had COVID already.
Okay. And so when was that?
When did you have COVID, Mom? It was around Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
Very light.
Okay. All right. I am sending the paramedics to help you now. Stay on the line. I'll tell you exactly what to do next. If there's a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now in case we need it later.
Okay, there's not.
Okay. So reassure her that help is on the way. And from now on, don't let her have anything to eat or drink. It might make her sick or cause further problems. Just let her rest in the most comfortable position and wait for help to arrive. I am going to stay on the line with you as long as I can. Watch her very closely and look for any changes. If she becomes less awake or starts getting worse, you need to tell me immediately, okay?
Yeah, no, she's,
Okay. So that call actually goes on for another 10 minutes because Mary wanted to stay on the line in case the lady had a hard time breathing and he needed instructions. So everything that we do in the 911 center is recorded. So everything we go out on when we talk on the radio, it's recorded, or when you call in for 911 or for a non-emergency, it's recorded. And that's how we were able to get that phone call for you. So when you call 911 or call for non-emergency, a call taker will answer your call and they'll ask you what you need. If it's medical, they're going to follow that script, and they'll follow a set of scripted questions for everything. So if someone called up and maybe they were struck by lightning, there's a set of questions for that. Or if you cut yourself with a knife by mistake because you were cooking, then there's a set of questions and instructions for that, and controlling bleeding and that kind of thing. If you're calling because you need a police officer, then we can help you with that as well. But everything that you say or the details that you're giving, the call taker is typing that information into the computer aided dispatch, or the CAD system. And their partners are reading that, and then they're talking to the people out in the field, either the police officer or the firefighter or the paramedic, and giving that information that you're giving over the phone. They're getting that over the radio by the dispatcher. And so everything that we do in the 911 center is based at a team. We all help each other out, and all of our goal is to help the person who's calling get the right help as fast as they possibly can. So the nice thing about being a 911 professional is that anybody can be a 911 professional. You don't need any special school. You don't have to go to college. Most 911 centers ask for a high school diploma or a GED, but you can turn 18 and get hired by a 911 center. The one thing that you do need to make sure is that you haven't done any kind of drugs, because most centers will not hire you if you have a history of doing drugs. So I know that no one on this call is doing that, but you definitely want to make sure you don't, because being 911 professional is pretty cool. You always get to be working inside. No one is shooting at you. No one is throwing up on you, like sometimes the paramedics get puked on. You don't have to go into a fire, but you still get to help people when they really need it. And being that calm voice on the other end of the phone is really rewarding. It's also a lot of fun when you get to help deliver babies, or if you give someone CPR instructions and they live. We actually have an award for that. It's called the Phoenix Award, and they get a plaque for that, just like you would get a badge for doing things as a Girl Scout. And by the way, I was a Girl Scout growing up, and I wore my Girl Scout green for you ladies today. And I tried to find my Girl Scout stash with all of my badges on it, but it's packed away really good somewhere, so I couldn't find it to show you guys. But anybody can be a 911 professional. The training that you go through, it takes we do about a 3-week classroom academy when you get hired, and you learn some things in the classroom, but then you get to go out onto the floor, what we call the floor, or the room where I just gave you a tour, and you sit with a trainer and you learn the rest of how to call take, and then how to dispatch and all the different things. So getting through training usually takes between 6 and 9 months, but you're paid the whole time. And then once you're out of training, you get to help people for a living. It's pretty great. And they work 10-hour shifts. So sometimes people start early in the morning, like at 7 a.m. Or we have some people who come in at 11 in the morning. Some people come in at 3 in the afternoon and they work until way into the night. Some people come in at 5 o'clock p.m. So like in 30 minutes, and they work until 3 in the morning. And then we have our graveyard shift, or sometimes we call them the vampire shift, and they come in at 9 p.m. when most people are going to bed, and they work all the way through the night until 7 a.m. So they're there for us in the middle of the night and working alongside the police officers and the firefighters and the paramedics, who are also working through the night. Although, you know, the firefighters and the paramedics get to sleep. The cops don't get to sleep. We don't get to sleep at night, but the firefighters do. So it is a wonderful, wonderful job. And people come to us from all kinds of different jobs too. So for example, I went to school, when I got out of high school, I went to college, and I got a double degree in English and in theater. I was a lighting designer in theater. but I got recruited into the 911 center by a fire chief because I was working at a cell phone store and he came in and thought I would be good at 911. So he asked me to apply and I got the job. And that was up in Vail. And I worked at the Vail 911 center in Vail, Colorado for about 18 years, started as a dispatcher. I became what's called a CTO or a trainer. And then I became a supervisor, and then I was our operations manager. So kind of like the second in command behind our director for about 4 years. And I got the job as 911 center manager here in Grand Junction about a year ago. So here in Grand Junction, I'm the director and I'm responsible for making sure that everybody here has the training and the tools that they need and that we give a good working environment. We have 8 supervisors that oversee everybody on the floor, and we have a total of 56 people working here. So it's just a fantastic job. When I'm not working, I have a 16-year-old daughter who just started driving, and she likes theater too. And my husband is a fire chief. So we have a lot of public safety in our family. And I also have 2 dogs. We have a Bernese Mountain Dog Border Collie mix, and we have a Corgi, and we have 1 cat and a rabbit. So we have a pretty full house at our house. So that's what and when I'm not working, I like to read and I like to go running and we like to go camping. So there's all kinds of different things that we like to do. Yeah. So I see some good questions coming in. So maybe we should start answering some questions.
So do I. Well, thank you for that presentation, though. That was incredibly interesting. And I have some great questions that have come in. So the first question that came in while you were taking us on the tour is, can you tell us the difference between dispatching and answering the phone? And if you have that as your job, do you do both? I know not at the same time, but can you switch back and forth?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have 8 people who are hired to be call takers only. And so that's all they do for 40 hours a week is they take 911 and non-emergency calls. But if you want to be a dispatcher, you can train to be a dispatcher too. And then we have a group of people who make what's called the console assignments, and they make sure that everybody gets equal time for call taking and for dispatching. And so sometimes you might come in and do call taking and then do dispatching for a while, or some days you might come in and do dispatching and then do call taking. So you can do both. They just don't do it all at once usually.
That's very helpful. Okay, some more questions. Let me just go back through the chat box because they're coming in.
Yeah.
What do you do in training? So can you tell us a little bit more about the training process?
Yep. So in the classroom part of training, you learn how to operate the computer-aided dispatch system or CAD. You learn how to operate the phone system. So you saw that the phone was a computer, right? So it takes a little bit to learn how to answer the phone on the computer. And work with the headset and the handset that they use. So you learned policies and procedures. So what to do when you're call taking or what to do when you're dispatching. And then when you're training on the floor, you're sitting with a trainer and you're actually doing the job and the trainer is helping you. So in the beginning, when you're first learning, you get a lot of help from your trainer, but as you go through it and you learn more and more, you can do more by yourself. And so at the end of training, your trainer is just there in case you have questions, but you're doing the whole job. So it's really supportive that way.
Great. Somebody asked, can some people have a hard time dealing with some of the potentially traumatic events that they might be listening to over the phone or when they're picking up a call?
Yes, that is a very good question because we take all kinds of emergencies, right? Most people call us when they're having a really bad day. So we give our people a lot of training on how to handle the pressure. We make sure they know how to handle every kind of call that's coming in, which helps with their stress level. And then if they take a stressful call, we have a peer support group so they can talk to each other and it's totally confidential. We also have a psychologist that we contract with. So if they need to go talk to someone professional about what they've heard, they can do that. We also have a massage chair. So if they need to take a break, they can go and get a little massage. So we want to make sure that we're taking good care of the people who work here so that they can take care of you guys.
Great. What is the most interesting call that you have taken?
Well, I did take a call where we were giving CPR to someone and that person lived, and that was really exciting. How many of you are CPR certified? I saw a couple of people write it in. That's great. So it's really nice when CPR works. So that was fun. In my almost 20 years of dispatching, I have never delivered a baby, and I'm sad about that. But I have helped a lot of people with car accidents. I have helped a lot of people with emergencies, with medicals. I helped a lady one day or one evening who thought someone was breaking into her house. And she actually scared me because she was talking to me on the phone, and then all of a sudden I heard her scream, and then I heard rustling, like, you know how if you're moving the phone and it's rustling, and she wasn't talking to me anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened to this poor lady? Well, it turns out she heard a noise and she got scared, so she ran with the phone to her next door neighbor's house, and she was totally fine. But she really did scare me because I thought something had happened to her. And it turned out that the noises that she heard was snow falling off of her roof. So she was totally fine.
Well, we're glad to hear that she was fine, but I would be scared by that too.
Yeah, I was glad she was okay.
Yes, definitely. About how much money do people in these positions make? I know I'm sure it's different depending on kind of what level you are, but can you give us a sense of that?
Yes. So when you start as a call taker, you get paid $19 and I think it's 54 cents. And you get a lot of benefits with that too, like health insurance and other things. Although I know you guys probably don't, you're more interested in the pay, but the benefits are good. So when you grow up and you get interested in benefits, those are good too. And when you are a dispatcher, your pay goes up to about $25 an hour.
Thank you. And there's so many great questions in the chat box. So we're going to work our way through them as best we can. But they're fantastic questions.
And to the girl who said you're afraid of puke, I totally get it. Nobody pukes on you in dispatch. It's really nice.
How many people work at a time, and is it always the same throughout the day?
Well, that's a great question. And we actually have our busiest times are between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. So we have more people working at that time. And as you can imagine, there's less calls in the middle of the night. So the lowest number we go down to is 4 in the middle of the night, but we can go all the way up to 10. And we have some pretty good staffing right now and a lot of people in training. So sometimes there can be 14 or 15 people in the room at a time.
Wow. And just a reminder to please use the chat box to ask your questions. Okay, what is the hardest part of your job and what's the best part of your job? And also, like, what's the hardest and what's your favorite? Because your favorite part could be a hard part, even if it's not, you know what I mean? So what's the hardest part and what's the best part?
Well, I think the hardest part of doing or being a 911 professional is you have to be able to multitask. And I don't think we got a good chance to show you really well in the tour, but our people are listening to what's going on in the room. So they're listening to their coworkers tell them stuff. They could be listening to people on the phone. They're listening to the radio. And so it's a lot of things to keep track of, especially when it's really busy. So that can be the hardest part. And also knowing what to do when people are having a specific emergency, that can be tough. But my favorite part is knowing that I'm there with somebody when they really need help. Has anybody ever had to call 911? Yeah, I see a few. So was it really comforting to have someone there on the other end of the phone who could help you until someone got there in person? Yeah, it's really nice, right? So it's really rewarding to be able to be there for someone until someone can get there in person. And that's why we get called the first responders.
That makes a lot of sense. So Izzy asked, what if someone called you and was having a puke, she called it a puke attack, what kind of questions would you ask?
Well, the first question is, where are you? And then we ask if people are breathing, because that's really important. And then we would ask if you had taken any kind of medication or maybe what had caused this. But abdominal pain is kind of hard to assess over the phone. And so mostly we would just get as much information as we could about any medications that you took, or have you recently had surgery, or that kind of thing. And then we're going to give that information to the paramedics while they're on the way to your house so that they can help you feel better real fast, because a puke attack is no fun.
Somebody asked, can you be in college and have this job at the same time?
Yes, you can definitely do that. And a lot of centers will do that, and they'll work around your schedule. So the nice thing about 911 too is if you don't want to work during the daytime, you can work at night. Or if you'd rather have your weekdays off and work on the weekends, you can do that.
That's awesome. Okay, more questions. Are you a dispatcher or a call receiver?
Well, right now, I don't do either one because my job is to take care of all the people who are doing that as manager. So I don't do either one of those. But when I did, I was both. I was a dispatcher and a call taker. Because at my old center, everybody did all of it. You got trained all the way up to everything.
Did you like one more than the other?
Well, you know, my husband's a firefighter, so I kind of like dispatching fire. But I also used to be a volunteer firefighter and EMT, so I knew a lot about that, working out, you know, on the fire truck. I don't know. I guess my favorite part, honestly, was dispatching, because I knew that I could help my first responders, and it was great to be there and give them everything that they needed, and make sure that they had a calm voice on the radio, because they're in the middle of everything as well. So it's nice to have some calm for them.
Somebody wants to know, what did you want to be when you grow up when you were a kid?
That is such a great question. When I was 5 years old, I told my mom I wanted to be a bulldozer. So that didn't work out. When I was older and I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be a lighting designer for theater. And I did get my degree in that. But after I got out of college, I decided that maybe that wasn't where I wanted to go. And so I was working customer service in the cell phone store when I got recruited into the 911 center. But the nice thing about 911 is you don't need any specific college training to come to 911. And every experience that you have helps you be a good 911 professional, because 911 is really about people. And everything that you do is going to have some sort of aspect of people, right? So you can come to 911 with any set of experience and be really good at it.
What happens if all of the fire station / EMS / police stations, or, you know, the folks who work there, what if they're all occupied?
Like they're all busy? Is that what you mean? Okay. So we have all of our people, like all the fire departments and all the police officers, they have agreements with one another. And so say, for instance, here in the Grand Junction area, if the Fruita police officers are all busy and they need help, then the sheriff's office might come and help them. Or if Palisade is busy, then the sheriff's office might go help them. Or if the fire department in Palisade is busy, then they're going to get help from Grand Junction Fire. So if everybody in the whole county is busy, then it's a busy day, and we might get help from Montrose, or Garfield County might come over and help us. So it just depends. Like the big fire that we had over the summer, the Pine Gulch fire, there were 1,000 firefighters from all over the country working on that fire.
Wow. Well, it's good to know that you're all there to help each other out if you need it.
Yep, it's one big family. Hey, and we have that for 911 too. So up in Grand County, where they had the East Troublesome fire, unfortunately, 2 of their dispatchers lost their homes in the fire, and we sent our dispatchers up to work for them while they needed time off to get situated with a place to live and that kind of thing. So we all help each other out.
Wow. Very cool. How long can some of the calls get? So you said the one that we listened to lasted, over 10 minutes. How long can they go?
They can go, it depends on what the situation is and whether or not they need a 911 professional. For example, if someone lived maybe up on the Mesa or in Colburn and that person needed CPR instructions, we could be on the phone for 15, 20 minutes while somebody's getting there. So it just depends. The longest call I ever had when I was working up in Eagle County, I had a lady who had fallen from a height and needed support with her breathing, and her husband and I were on the phone for about an hour because they lived so far from help. That was a long call.
Wow. So speaking of, what is the scariest or most stressful call you've answered?
Well, the one where the girl, I thought something had happened to her, was pretty scary for me. I thought that she had been maybe murdered while she was on the phone with me. Thank goodness she wasn't. But some of the hardest calls that I have taken are calls where people have taken their own lives. And we've been talking to the people who are reporting that. That's a very tough call because there isn't anything that you can do to help the person who has died, but your patient then, or the person you're caring for then, is the person on the phone, and that's a really tough situation.
Wow, that does sound tough. If you take a call, will you always be the person that with that caller until the call ends, or is there ever a circumstance where it would go to somebody else?
Well, sometimes we would transfer that call to an officer if the officer wants to speak with them, and sometimes we have some people who call and English is not their first language. And so we can pull in someone on a three-way call and they will translate for us. But we would never give up that call. We would still be on the phone with them and they would just be translating for us. We also take text to 911. So if you can't make a phone call and it's safer to text, then you can text to 911. And that's true here in Mesa County. For those of you who are in different states, text to 911 is becoming pretty common. So it's likely that that's available in your area too.
Wow, I didn't know about that, but that makes a lot of sense to have that available. Okay. How many calls do you get in a day, and is it difficult to help people over the phone?
It can be hard to help people over the phone, but that's why we have a lot of training and support for that. And as far as how many calls a day, we took about 301,000 phone calls last year in 2020. So I don't know if anybody's got a calculator or is quick with math, but 301,000 divided by 365, whatever that works out to. Who's a math whiz?
I'm not a math whiz. That's a lot of calls.
Yep.
Have you ever had a call from somebody that had a problem with their pet?
Yes, we get calls like that all the time. So we can help connect them to animal control, or sometimes, a police officer might be able to help with that. Or sometimes we get calls for the fire department to go get cats out of trees. Even though the fire department doesn't really do that. But yes, we do get calls for help with pets. And it could be an emergency, so we'll help you.
Yeah, sure. Have you ever had food poisoning calls?
Yes. Speaking of puke attacks, right? But yes, sometimes we get food poisoning calls and we handle them with those medical questions, just like we handle any other medical question or medical emergency.
Do you ever get funny or weird calls?
All the time. Yep. So, people's definition of emergency is different. And so when people call up, sometimes it can be funny to us, but it's an emergency to them. So we always stay professional and we help them out. But you can go on YouTube and search for funny 911 calls and you'll come up with a lot.
Okay. I might have to do that. When you're a manager, can you still choose to sometimes take calls or dispatch?
Yes, I can if I need to. I haven't done that in a long time because if it's that busy, then they need support in other ways. Like we need to make sure that maybe we need to call in more people, or maybe they need someone to get food for them because they can't get up and take a break, or maybe we need to coordinate bathroom breaks for people. So I try not to, just because I want to make sure that I'm supporting the people who are there, but I could if I really needed to.
Somebody asked, what is it like to be a volunteer firefighter, and what does the day-to-day look like, and what kind of training would you need to do that?
Such a great question. And every volunteer fire department is different. So I encourage you to reach out to your nearest fire department and ask about that. At the fire department where I was a volunteer, we went through a class that was about a semester long, called Fire One. And we learned all about how to safely go into a fire and how to put on our protective gear and how to put on the SCBA, or the breathing mask with the oxygen tank on your back. I got to go through what's called a flashover simulator, which is basically a metal box that you go into and they make the fire go, and you have to experience the heat that you would be in a real fire. I did not learn how to drive the fire truck because I didn't want to do that. But the EMT class that I took was also a semester long, and that gave me the skills to help people in medical emergencies. And it was a lot of fun. The shifts that we had, you didn't have to stay in the firehouse. You could respond from home. And again, it's different for every fire department, but I really enjoyed it. I only stopped doing that when I had my daughter, and my husband was a paid firefighter at that time. And so it didn't make sense for him to stay home when we had a call, because he had to go out anyway for his job. So I had to give it up, but I would do it again.
Cool. Have you ever had someone call in a bomb threat, or someone saying that they've heard a bomb threat?
Yes, we have had that happen. And there's a set of questions that we ask for that. And of course, there's a lot of actions that our police officers take when that happens, mostly involving getting everybody out and away from where the bomb is said to be. And then they'll send in the bomb squad and determine if it's an emergency and how they can best handle that bomb if it's real.
Yeah. Have you ever taken a call from a kid?
All the time. In fact, kids can be the best callers, or we call them RPs, or reporting parties, because kids get trained on how to call 911 in school, and you guys are really good at being calm. So I always liked it when the kids called in 911 because they were great at answering questions, they were great at giving information, and they were great at following directions. And you didn't hang up on us either, so.
Have you ever gotten a call from someone who was blind or deaf?
Such a great question. Yes. When someone is blind, it's not a huge deal because they can still talk to us and give us the same information over the phone that we would get from anybody else. If we take a call from someone who's deaf, they can use what's called a TDD, or a telecommunications device for the deaf, which helps translate. Basically, they're typing and the stuff goes over the phone to us with the special equipment that they have. But these days, people who are deaf usually text to 911 because everybody has their phone.
Yeah, what a great resource.
Yep. However, I will say that there are also video translations. Like, remember when I said we had the language line for translating Spanish? There's also a video component to that. So people who use sign language could open up a chat, and we could use that for sign language translation.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is the easiest call you've ever had?
Oh, the easiest call I've ever had is probably people who call in parking problems, because there's nobody in danger and it's not an emergency, and it's the same every time.
Somebody asked, can you tell us about one of the funny or weird calls that you've received?
Well, I would love to, but I tend not to, because I don't want the people, I'm afraid that the people who made that phone call would hear that I called their phone call funny, and then they would be sad or disappointed that we made fun of their call. So I tend not to do that, just out of respect.
Sure. And like you said, they felt like it was an emergency and
Right.
might have come across funny, but they felt like it was an emergency at that time.
I actually will share one with you. When I was working in Eagle County, I took a phone call from someone who was upset because the sun was in their eyes while they were driving. And I was fairly new at 911 call taking, and I just had to ask. I'm like, what do you want me to do about that? And he said, I think that CDOT, the Department of Transportation, should build a sunshade over the highway to keep the sun out of people's eyes. And I said, okay, well, I will pass that on to the Department of Transportation. And he was happy because I said I would pass it on. But I got off that call and I was just like, really? You called 911? Okay.
I would say that that definitely falls into the silly bucket.
But it was important to him.
Right. Definitely. Have you ever had a call where someone calls you? She said, have you ever had a call where someone calls you because they fell asleep? And I'm not, maybe that means like have you ever had someone like sleepwalk call you?
Oh, I've never had anybody call while they were sleepwalking, but I have had calls from people who were hallucinating, where they thought that someone was tunneling under their house to come and kidnap them. And it was totally real to them, but it wasn't happening in real life.
Wow. That's very interesting. If someone calls non-emergency, does it go somewhere else?
Nope, it still comes here.
Ainsley asked, what was one of the kid calls? I'm not sure you can tell us, but maybe an example.
Oh, let's see. Well, I've had kids call in because their parents were fighting, and that's a good reason to call. I've had kids call in because the adult they were with was having a medical emergency, and so they called for an ambulance. And in some cases, kids who do that will save that person's life because they're the only ones there with the adult. So those are a couple of kid calls that I can think of. I know that other people have had kids call in because they needed help with their homework, but that's never happened to me.
That was the next question in the chat box was, did you ever get a call from a kid asking homework questions?
Nope, I have not, but it has happened to other people that I've worked with.
Have you ever been prank called?
All the time. Don't
Really?
do that.
I know.
Don't do that. And the reason I say that is because, if you are prank calling 911, we sometimes, like if you're calling from a landline phone or, not a cell phone, then we know where you are. So we can send a police officer to talk to you about that. But the other thing is, if you're taking up a 911 line, you might be taking that line from someone who really needs help. And so prank calling is not a good idea. However, if you ever need to test a 911 line, like where you're working, or if you need to test your house, then you can call us on the non-emergency line and say, I want to test my 911 line, and then we can work on that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How often do accidental 911 calls happen? And do you have to dispatch emergency services, even if the person says it was an accident?
Well, we get a lot of accidental cell phone 911 calls because people sit on the phone. We call that a butt dial, or their Apple Watch is called by mistake. A couple of years ago, Apple did this new service where if it detected a fall by the person who was wearing the watch, it would call 911. And so when we were working in Vail, we would get a lot of calls from people who were skiing. But the funny part is you're wearing gloves and coats and all that. So they wouldn't have any idea that their watch had called 911. And so we'd be talking to people's watches. So on a cell phone, we don't dispatch anybody because we don't, by the time we got out there, you'd probably be in a different place.
Sure.
On a landline, we like to send people to make sure that you're okay, because sometimes people call 911 and they can't speak, and we want to make sure that you're okay.
There's a few comments in the chat box about people who have accidentally called 911, and I can say I have done that as well by accident.
When it happens, if you accidentally call, just stay on the line and tell the 911 professional what happened. You're not going to be in trouble, and it saves them the trouble of calling them back. So
Oh,
just line. It's super, it can be embarrassing, but we get it
yeah.
all the time. So don't sweat it.
Good to know. So we are just about coming up to the end of our time together today, and it looks like we got through all the questions. So Jennifer, I wonder do you have any words of advice for all the Girl Scouts on our call today, or just in general, or if for a girl who might have an interest into going into 911 services in the future?
Yep. One, I think it's a fantastic profession. There's a lot of growth. You can become a supervisor, you can become a training coordinator, you can become a QA, quality assurance analyst. That's someone who listens to other people's calls and makes sure that they're following the rules. And you can become a director or a manager. And it's a great way to help people. And again, you're always warm, safe, and dry. And I would just say, stay in school, make sure you get your high school diploma or your GED. Don't do drugs, because that's the biggest thing that disqualifies people from being considered, because a lot of us work for law enforcement, and so we can't have any kind of drugs in our history. And if you ever are interested in it, then I would contact your 911 center and ask to come in and do what's called a sit along. And you can learn more about it. And we would love to have you come in and show you more about it.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to close things out with our final question that we ask all of our experts in this program. And that would be, what is your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
My favorite is Samoa's, and I cannot wait for you guys to start selling.
Yay! Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. I know I learned a ton. I think all the Girl Scouts who are listening, either live today or to the recording on YouTube, probably learned a ton as well. And lucky for you, in Colorado, Girl Scouts will have cookies in hand this weekend. So you can have some Samoas to look forward to. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you, girls, so much for being in Girl Scouts. And thank you for joining us here. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I'm happy if you want to share my email address, Amy. I can answer anybody else's questions. If you want to email me a question, I'm happy to do that.
Great. I will do that. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thanks to all the Girl Scouts out there.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.